Hi again, Laurel Students. Here is another read aloud that I'm going to share with you today on Monday, May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. It's Star Wars week, or maybe just today is Star Wars Day. I guess it's Spirit Week, and today is Star Wars Day. It is read aloud number 11, and I am going to read you a book called Growing Up by the Sea. It's by Carrie Waters, and this is kind of a companion book to the book I read very first to you all that was called Treasures of the Sea. It's called Growing Up by the Sea, and this is also that publisher, the Heinemann publication. This story is a special kind of genre, so I want you to think for a second. It's called Growing Up by the Sea. It has photographs. Just going to see if it has a table of contents. Okay, no table of contents. The author kind of set it up like a scrapbook almost. So I'm giving you a couple of hints. I'm going to show you again. See how she's used these illustrations and photographs to make it look like a scrapbook. So what do you think the genre is? I predict the genre is, it's actually nonfiction. I'm going to get that out for you. It is nonfiction. But this type of genre is even more detailed than that. It's called a memoir. A memoir is a memory. The word memoir means memory in French. And it is kind of like an autobiography, which means a story written about oneself. It's a biography written by one particular person by themselves, so it's called an autobiography. But a memoir is a tiny bit different because it writes and it reads like a story, as if the person is telling their own life story. You all have probably written memoirs, you just don't really know it. A lot of times when we are doing Writer's Workshop, we do a personal narrative. And if you have written your personal narrative almost like a story about yourself, then you've written a memoir. So this one's called Growing Up by the Sea. This is her personal story of herself as she was growing up by the sea. Growing Up by the Sea by Carrie Waters. Her name is Waters, isn't that funny? Carrie Waters. I'm going to show you the photographs. I played with fish eyes when I was a kid. It's true. They were real eyes from real fish. And look how she has set up her page, almost like a scrapbook, where she has cut out things and glued them into a book. My father was a lobster fisherman. My sisters and I played with lots of things from the sea. Lobsters and starfish and clams were things we saw every day. We had a pet horseshoe crab for a while. It lived in a little boat in the front yard. You play with the things around you, right? So look at that illustration. See how she's labeled it, and it looks like handwriting. So she's created something that looks like a scrapbook. Once I put a lizard down on the kitchen floor. Sorry, I have to reread that because I said lizard, and that word is not lizard, it's lobster. I don't even know what I'm thinking. Okay, repeat. Once I put a lobster down on the kitchen floor. The lobster waved its claws in the air. Then it began to crawl along. It looked like a little robot. Its little claw feet clicked on the floor. The lobster freaked out our dog Butch. She barked and yelped and pretended to jump on the thing, but she was scared to touch it, so she ran and hid behind the sofa. The dog is scared of the lobster. Says here, Butch and the Lobster. And this book really reads like a kid wrote it. She's using kid language when she writes. I want you to look at that close-up of that clam. We played with clams too. If you squeeze a clam, water squirts out of it. My sister Bobby and I squeezed clams. We told our little sisters the water was clam pee. Then we chased them all around the house and made them scream. It wasn't really pee, but they didn't know that. My dad on the boat. This page has a little diagram of, I think it's a lobster trap. Yeah. I had the most fun on the lobster boat with my father. You catch lobsters in traps. My dad pulled each trap up by a rope. I leaned over the side of the boat and watched the rope zip up out of the water. Zit, zit! Drops of water shot off the rope. The sun on the water drops made little rainbows. Look at that big fish. I thought about the bottom of the sea. There was a whole world down there. I don't know much about that world. I knew lobsters and crabs crawled on the bottom. Fish swam around and ate each other. Strange things lived down there in the dark. I'm going to show you the pictures first. What would a trap have inside when it came up out of the water? You never knew. Lobsters, crabs, fish, snails. Sometimes there were things I'd never seen before. She asks, "What is it?" She found lots of snails. My father took everything out of the trap. He stuck a dead fish onto a big nasty hook inside the trap. The fish was the bait. Then he threw the trap back into the water. Nice close-up of the lobster trap, what it really looked like in real life. Here's a nice close-up of a hermit crab. I played around with anything that came out of the traps. I set up crab races. The crabs ran sideways. I tried to get hermit crabs to come out of the shells they lived in. No way. I picked up starfish. They grabbed onto my fingers and the little tubes under their arms. With the little tubes under their arms. It's a good picture of a starfish. Okay, this is the best page. Look at what's in her hand. Okay, take a good look. Here we go. One day, Bobby and I found these pretty little balls on the boat. We held them up, and the sun shone through them. We tossed them back and forth. "What are these, Dad?" I asked. My father looked at me. He didn't say a word, just picked up some bait. It was a red fish. Then he stabbed it onto that wicked hook in the trap. Okay, there's the bait. She's being suspenseful now. She's not telling us what those things are. But Dad put a hook in a fish, and this is the last page. Pop! Out popped a fish eyeball. So that's what those pretty balls were. An artist's kid plays with paint. A carpenter's kid plays with wood and nails. And a fisherman's kid? I played with fish eyes. And her last page is a picture of the lobster boat. So this story is a memoir, a story she wrote by herself, Carrie Waters, and she even made it funny. She wrote it as a grown-up, but it sounded like a kid was writing the story. And also, I love her ending with the funny fish eyes. Oh boy. I'm glad I didn't play with fish eyeballs when I was a little kid, but maybe it would have been fun, right? Okay, you guys, so have a great May the 4th, and it's Spirit Week. Keep it up, and I will see you again. Don't forget to check my Google Classroom. Don't forget to look into Google Meets on your own teacher's classroom page so that we can all read together and see each other on our Google Classroom Meets. Okay? Bye, everybody. Take care.